Good morning, everyone. So, people have been a little bit obsessed with the weather this week, and I don't blame them. I'm in the position this week, I misread my roster, and I need to go back to work full day turns from tomorrow. So I've got an extra night booked, and I was going to cancel it, but then I thought, actually, for what I'd lose cancelling it, I gain far more working the shift. If you can, arrange a pack up late in wet weather, or pay an extra night if it's not too silly expensive. So you can see what I've done is I've packed up absolutely everything I can, taken down the bed area, so that's bedroom gone. I'm now going to pack up the carpet, put that away in its lovely big dry bag. I love these dry bags. These are absolutely brilliant. So the carpet and the inner tent live in there. I'll put what I can into the car, but it won't be everything because I need the car for the day. I've got other people with me. And then I've taken down the windows so any condensation can dry. So got windows down, leave that loose, and I will basically pack up everything I can. I love how these air beams cope with the wind. It's absolutely brilliant. No bent poles like I used to have. Excellent. So as I said, I'll pack up absolutely everything I can, with little bits and pieces, so sort of the lights and stuff I'll show you in a minute. I have a chest of drawers in the back of the car, and they all live in there. I'll leave anything else in this section, and that means later this afternoon, if it does dry up, I can hopefully get the tent down dry with minimal fuss because everything's ready to go into the car. And if I do still have to take it down wet, it's not the end of the world. Morning, Oaty. So as I say, I'm only packing away what's got its own spaces because I need the rest of the car today. Usually I wouldn't, usually I'm travelling on my own, but I'm with family and we're going to go out for the day, so I want to be able to get at the rest of the car. But Oaty pretty much owns the boot, so Oaty's packed away in her own space with her nice travel water bowl at the back there, so she's always got fresh water on the go. And I love this chest of drawers. It's really simple, but she's got a food drawer, a toy drawer, and this is the camping drawer. So as you can see, I've put the lights away and they can stay in there. Bottom drawer is water, so we keep a plentiful supply of bottles of water for both of us. I have got pegs there, hooks for wet dog leads, wet coats, space for walking boots, food. Her bed's been tucked away up there. Obviously it doesn't usually look this untidy most of the time, but when we're away camping there's a lot of extra bits in there. So that is most things that I can pack away are done. Okay, so that's everything packed away that I can be. As I said, I'm leaving the stuff in the tent, partly because I need the car today, but the other big reason is if I do have to actually pack the tent down wet later, it will go on top of everything in the car. Whereas when I pack it down dry, it goes at the bottom because it fits in really neatly. So what we're going to do is head out. I'm going to zip this door really nice and securely down, Velcro it in position so that the whole thing is watertight. Make sure that's the same both sides. And that way I can leave the tent and we can still cross fingers that we might get it down dry. If we don't, we shall have a look at other methods. So I'm going to go out for the day. Oaty and I are off walking waterfalls. So it doesn't matter if we're wet. And we'll come back later. Oaty and I have been for a lovely walk this morning with my aunt. And then we went back to the cottage they're staying in. Had a nice lunch and a catch up. While the weather dried up and it's all lovely. And we've come back to take up tent. Well, okay. That didn't happen in the slightest. So now we'll have a look at packing a wet tent away in the rain. Number one, give your dog a treat, leave them in peace in the car. And they can relax because they're not going to be any help whatsoever. Next, I'd certainly advise putting your waterproofs on. It is too easy. I've made a mistake before to think it's not going to take me long. won't get too wet, and I've got absolutely soaked. So, waterproof's on. And then park up next to the tent. You'll see I've moved the car to the opposite side, so I've got my car door right next to the tent door, just to make life easier and quicker. I'm going to fold all the windows back up, just so there's less likelihood of them getting damaged or torn whilst I'm packing away. I'm going to put everything that we packed up earlier into the car, so at least it's all ready to go now. The only things I want left out are tent peg hook, bag for the pegs to go in, a bag for the footprint, the tent footprint to go in, and a Hippo bag, which we'll look at later. And that is all I want left easy to access, and to be honest, they can go on the front seat of my car. That's everything that I want out the tent, into the car, with anything I'm likely to need on the front seat. So I zip this door up and I leave the front door open, because that's how Berghaus say it's easiest to fold up, and they're absolutely right. So before I open the front door, you can see it's still pretty windy out here, I'm going to take the guy ropes up, and then as soon as they're up, let the air out so that I lower the centre of gravity and there's less to be caught by the wind. Guy ropes taken out and the front flap open, the tent's at its most vulnerable. So nice and quickly undo the back valve, let porch down, go, and then straight down. So usually when I've taken this down before, you'll have noticed I take out most of the pegs first. When it's vulnerable in the wind like this, I'm going to leave the pegs in until it's on the floor. Whereas like I say, usually I just leave the four corner ones in. I don't want to leave my tent. Obviously I'm only in a field site today, so that does make it less likely for the tent to run away. But the sooner I can get it on the floor, fully pegged out, the easier it will be. Now I'm not going to walk over it or do anything like that in this weather. That will damage it. So I am actually going to go and sit in the car for 5 minutes and make a phone call and leave the tent to it. That's looking a bit better. Time to go round and take out all the pegs except the four corners. That's most of the pegs out. Now the wind is blowing slightly this way, so I'm going to use that to work in my favour and start by taking out the two corner pegs on this side and then fold it over lengthways towards the car. This is where the footprint really comes into its own. So I'm folding away a wet but clean tent. So I'll get folding with that. We'll see how it goes. I'm folding it differently to how I would if I was putting it back in the bag, because I know I'm going to be folding it looser, so there's no point in forcing anything. So I'm still folding towards what will be the door, but I'm not doing all the lengthways ones first. Okay, and then I'll fold that way again, and then lengthways. So I'm left with it obviously looking a lot bigger than normal, but still quite a nice, neatish parcel. This is where our Hippo bag comes in. I've tried various things over the years. Tarpaulins, they're a bit of a struggle on your own. This dry bag in here, actually, I bought that for the tent to go in, but it just wasn't quite big enough, nearly but not quite. So now we bundle the tent into the Hippo bag. That is a tent in a Hippo bag. I'm now going to squash it down a bit more and then get it into the car. So that is now a wet tent in a car, not making the car wet. It obviously does take up more room than if it were folded up correctly, so that's definitely something to bear in mind. But as I've got no paddleboarding kit with me or kayaking kit with me this time, I do still have the front seat spare. So I knew if it really came to it, it would go on the front seat. But actually, as it is, it fits in there quite nicely. So that just leaves me with a wet ground sheet. It is soaking wet both sides because I've been folding a wet tent on it, so the top was dry, but is obviously now wet, and it's been raining whilst packing it all away. So I'm going to start this end, take the pegs out and fold it up. So that is the wet footprint into a bag with the wet pegs. And I won't hang around, I'll get that straight into the car as the bag is dry. Right, that's it. That is a wet tent packed away in wet weather. Quick scout around of everywhere, make sure I haven't left any pegs or anything else. Let Hoti out for a quick break and then it's time to go home. I hope that's been useful. Obviously a lot of what I've said is probably fairly obvious, but some of it may be tips for you. It doesn't need to be done too precisely because it will be taken out to dry it, obviously. So I'm going straight back home and then I'm on day turns. So I won't be able to get it out tonight, but I will put it in the garage, in the bag it's in, and it will be absolutely fine. And then I'd aim for tomorrow evening just to peg it out in the garden without the guys or anything, just for 4 corners and a couple of other pegs, and it will stay out in my garden until we have a dry enough day that I can bring it down dry. Some of those pegs got pretty muddy, so they will go in a bucket of warm water for a swish around and then out onto a towel to dry. And other than that, we're pretty much done. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope that has given you a few tips, and catch up with us again soon. Happy camping, everyone.